Section 1 of The Doctor's Christmas Eve. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Lynne Thompson. The Doctor's Christmas Eve by James Lane Allen. Section 1. The Children of Desire. The morning of the 24th of December, a quarter of a century ago, opened upon a vast plateau of central Kentucky as a brilliant but bitter day, with a wind like the gales of March. Out in a neighborhood of one of the wealthiest and most thickly settled counties, toward the middle of the forenoon, two stumpy figures with movements full of health and glee appeared on a hilltop of the treeless landscape. They were the children of the neighborhood physician, a man of the highest consequence in his part of the world, and they had come from their home, a white and lemon-colored 18th-century manor-house a mile in the rear. Through the crystalline air, the chimneys of this low structure, rising out of a green girdle of cedar trees, could be seen emptying unusual smoke, which the wind in its gambolling pounced upon and jerked away level with the chimney-tops. But if you had stood on the hill where the two children climbed into view, and if your eye could have swept round the horizon with adequate radius of vision, it would everywhere have been greeted by the same wondrous harmonious spectacle. Out of the chimneys of all dwellings scattered in comfort and permanence over that rich domestic land, a land of Anglo-Saxon American homes, more than daily winter smoke was pouring. One spirit of preparation, one mood of goodwill warmed houses and hearts. The whole visible heaven was receiving the incense of Kentucky Christmas fires. The whole visible earth was a panorama of the common peace. The two dauntless, frost-defying wayfarers, what Emerson, meeting them in the depths of a New England winter, might have called two scraps of valor, were following across fields and meadows and pastures one of the footpaths which children who are friendly neighbors naturally make in order to get to each other, as the young of wild creatures trace for themselves upon the earth some new map of old hereditary traits and cravings. For the goal of their journey they were hurrying toward a house not yet in sight, but hardly more than a mile ahead, where they were to spend Christmas Day, and share in an old people's and children's Christmas tree party on Christmas night, and where also they were to put into execution a plot of their own, about which a good deal is to be narrated. They were thus transferring the nation's yearly festival of the home from their own roof-tree to that of another family, as the place where it could be enacted and enjoyed. The tragical meaning of this arrangement was but too well understood by their parents. To them the abandonment of their own fireside at the season when its bonds should have been freshened and deepened scarcely seemed an unnatural occurrence. The other house had always been to them as a secondary home. It was the residence of their father's friend, a professor in the State University situated some miles off across fine country. His two surviving children, a boy and a girl of about their own ages, had always been their intimate associates. And the woman of that household, the wife, the mother, all their lives they had been mysteriously impelled toward this gentlewoman by a power of which they were unconscious, but by which they had been swayed. The little girl wore a crimson hood and a brown cloak, and the boy a crimson skull-cap and a brown overcoat, and both wore crimson mittens. And both were red-legged and red-footed, for stockings had been drawn over their boots to ensure warmth, and to provide safeguard against slipping when they should cross the frozen Elkhorn or venture too friskily on silvery pools in the valley bottoms. The chestnut braids of the girl, falling heavily from under her hood, met in a loop in the middle of her broad fat back, and were tied there with a snip of ribbon that looked like a feather out of the wig of a blue jay. Her bulging hips overreached the borders of the narrow path, so that the boy was crowded out upon the rough ground as he struggled forward close beside her. She would not allow him to walk in front of her, and he disdained to walk behind. "Then walk beside me or go back."
Sample complete. Ready to continue?